We're here again on YouTube and LinkedIn with another exciting episode of the Top Innovator Series. This is where we dive into proven leadership idea, game-changing strategies, and of course, we hear from the brilliant minds behind all of this. My name is Joseph Martens, and I'm thrilled to introduce our guest today. With us today is Ram Tyagi. Ram is the CIO of the City of Aurora in Illinois. He's a member of the Forbes Tech Council and a board member of Chicago CIO. Before that, he held tech leadership roles for various other organizations, and today we're thrilled to have him with us. Ram, it's a pleasure to have you in the conversation here.
Thanks, Joseph, and glad to be here.
Ram, our topic is leadership, and you're super successful in your journey as a leader. So we'd love to hear from you when you reflect on your own journey. What do you think is the reason for your success? When you deconstruct the success, what are the ingredients for that?
Yeah, I'm a lifelong learner, and I always feel that, I don't need to know everything. As long as other people along, I can make the journey beautiful, fun, and also, enriching. Is, be grateful of, and I can always be proud of. So that's the reason, I have been sort of evolving myself in every job that, I join, whether it's a consulting firm or working directly at the full time with with a financial firm that was managing 100 billion worth of assets, asset management firm. Or now with City of Aurora, I had, with different roles, I had different kind of teams, right? Or I was building, in some cases, I was hiring different kind of people. But what I have learned, as long as you allow people to experiment more often, let them fail, learn from their failures, encourage them, have more frequent conversations, stop by to their desk, pat them, encourage them, and listen to them on frequent basis. And at the same time, show them the vision from a 5,000 feet level, and also like work with them to remain on the ground. So if you have balance of like, because, in my role, I talk to various of the other fellow leaders as well. So I learn from them as well, how they are experimenting on different things, what kind of best practices they are following. And then I come and talk to my own people, and they have their own ideas, but they are working on the ground, and I show them a vision, path, and roadmap and all that. But when I hear them, I try to balance the roadmap with the ground realities as well. And I think that always helps me, and they also feel that they are being heard, and I'm their friend, along.
Okay.
Leadership always comes by winning the trust, not by enforcing, your priorities, right? So you have to win the trust by being with them all the time.
You said something really interesting earlier on, and it just sparked my interest. You said you help other people make their journey beautiful. Beautiful was the first word that you used there. And I thought that's an unusual and interesting word to use in that context. Say something about that.
Yeah, like, if you are like encouraging people to experiment. So like when I joined City of Aurora, people were, some people were working on very advanced technology, but then some people like who wanted to work on advanced technologies, but they were always like supporting a legacy, you know, um, uh, technology, and they were never encouraged because that was only their job description or scope of the work, right? But when you talk to them on more frequent basis, and then you listen to their problems and their observations and their feedback for yourself, then you realize that, this person has more potential and he's eager to learn, he or she. And that's how you make their journey beautiful, because now they are gonna experiment their craft, what they are good at. And I think when I say they are like supporting the legacy technology, maybe that legacy technology at one point of time was favorite of them, but as the technology evolving so fast, so the choices evolve, right? So you cannot put a person in a box like this is what now you're good at and continue doing this. It's always good to provide them options,
Yeah.
and work with them on a regular basis. Hey, how this experiment is looking, what have you developed, how about we tweak it like that, right? And that's how they feel empowered and they feel the ownership of that. So I have like executed many large scale projects, and sometimes, those large scale projects in the beginning of, like, let's say you have a 1 year project, 1 year roadmap, and then first 2 months will be very volatile, very catastrophic, and you will feel like what's happening here, because you're arranging, you're aligning, right? And that time as a leader, you need to remain calm, you need to listen to everyone, and you need to make sure that people have the ownership.
Mhm.
And once you start building that shared ownership for a vision, then I think that beautiful journey starts, right? Because then everyone is committed, everyone is excited,
Mhm.
and it's not like
I like
like
it.
most leaders
Mhm.
sometimes say, hey, if you don't do this, um, you know, um, this is what's gonna happen. Like, in a strategic consulting, the strategic consulting firms also tell you, like, you need to show the fear and need to show the value in order to win the trust. But I feel like you need to have a shared ownership in order to excite people, right? So
Yeah.
they can see that they are developing something that they're gonna be proud of one day. I
Nice.
hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
Like, there
yeah.
are many ways to, you can write a
Yeah.
book on a beautiful journey, right? There's so many ways to
Yeah.
narrate it, and I can tell you many of my experiences, but I
It's
think
just a
that's one
nice,
approach.
it's an unusual and nice word to learn that. And it actually reminded me of a different book, A Beautiful Constraint, which talks about limitations in business. But that's a totally different topic. So let's not go there. So you said lifelong learner. Let me also dig a little bit deeper there. Lifelong learner. Um, Talk to us about a lesson that you've learned from a mentor or a trusted advisor or a role model that you might have learned. What is something you picked up from one of these people and that's still important to you?
Yeah, like, I always learn not only from my mentors, but also from my team members.
Mhm.
Uh, but I was like very much against like going for a training or certification before COVID. And then the COVID hit, and then we had a lot of time because you're working from home. And if you remember, in March, April, May 2020, all these sports facilities were closed. Everything was closed, right? So my kids were home, and I had a lot of time in the evening. So I decided, and I think we were encouraging everyone in my team. So I thought, okay, I should take a lead. So I decided to go for a certification.
Mhm.
And then I also decided to join MIT executive class on leadership and also on the blockchain. So what I learned there was very, very like simple, but game changing. Was like, always build your external network along with your internal network. So like, when you are leading a team, you're always building a network internally with your team, with your stakeholders, like business people and all around, but we never focus on our external network. It doesn't External network doesn't mean just like creating a LinkedIn profile and just connecting with the people, but regularly talking to them and learning from them like what they are doing, and then also telling your stories to them, so you are contributing into their growth, they are contributing into your growth, because different organizations have different context, different constraint, and different problems, but the approach
Yeah.
sometimes are very common to solve those problems, right? And that was very instrumental in my growth. Like, I always then focused on like building those relationships and learning from, my fellow leaders and other colleagues and all that. So I think, that was very instrumental in, since like COVID, I have then, definitely in touch with people like yourself, talk to them on regular basis, share my journey, learn from them, and like ideas that
Yeah.
come along to
Yep.
implement in my own journey. Yeah.
Yep. Let me take another look from a different perspective onto the learning topic. What was a leadership moment where you were surprised by how it played out? So I'm thinking of a situation, maybe you had a clear idea of what would happen in that leadership situation. You had a plan, and the plan went completely out the window. It turned out to be completely different for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Can you think of a
So
situation like that? What might
I
that
mean,
be?
I think two projects that were very, I was with Sapient. It's a great consulting firms.
Mhm.
The core values are amazing. I still, kind of um, apply their core values into myself and my team, just of those core values. I learned from that and apply. So when I was with Sapient, I was working on a project for Polaris. Um, they build these off-road trucks that you can ride, more like a sports kind of trucks, right? Off-road snowmobiles and all that.
Yep.
And Sapient was helping them to create a subscription platform. So you can subscribe, like, hey, you pay like $500 per month or whatever. These are expensive things, right? But yeah, and then you can get as many as snowmobiles, right? That sort of model. So, we had a team that was working there, and it was not going well. So they called me on a technology side, and they called another PM. And again, the same thing. We started listening to the people like, hey, why it's not moving anywhere? We have a go live date coming. So how can we? And then we had team in Minneapolis, team in Chicago, team in India, and we created a plan along with the team. Obviously, like, we had setbacks, right? We created the plan that did not go well, but that did not uh, create any problem for us. We knew like that we gonna learn from failures, right? So we then changed our plan, but we kept on experimenting on different things that will excite people. So these people were always feeling that they are learning something even from failures, right? We were experimenting on newer technologies. So that time, DevOps was a very new thing. You can automate things, so you can create the technology, like, the environment for a deployment very quickly. Earlier it would take like days. And as we were experimenting on newer technology, obviously first 2 3 months were very crazy because you were not able to move the needle.
Mm.
But me and my other counterpart were very patient, and eventually, as we were solidifying our framework, despite all those failures, once the framework was ready, then we were on autopilot. We not only went live on time, but also we created the history and the legacy that, a lot of people will come to us. How did you do it?
Yep.
And then we signed many more deals with the same client.
Cool.
But also that technology framework that we created, the quality that the value that we delivered, the quality of the product that we had, kind of was not only instrumental for that product, but also then other like teams were also learning from us. Um, so that was one. And similarly, we executed another large scale accounting platform migration from a legacy platform to a newer, more modern for Cargill, again, for their risk management platform. And that journey, like for a year, like when, um, so we like again Sapient went there more on a leadership side. Like we had a PM, tech lead, me, and the QA lead, and we started executing the journey. But as I mentioned earlier, I was referring this project. So first 2 3 months were very crazy.
Yeah.
Like we had a plan, but project was not moving. These people did not want to come out of their cubicles, and there were always excuse that we are doing the day-to-day tasks. We don't have time for this project, or they were not understanding the vision. They were not
Mm.
understanding the importance. They were thinking that, oh, we have a year left, right, to execute this project.
Yeah.
We don't need to focus now. And they were not aware about the agile project approach.
Yeah.
So they were against using Jira, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, we had a plan, but the plan was not working for first 2 months.
Mm.
Leadership problems, like when things don't work, then you have conflict within leadership also. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
probably need to change the leadership and all that. I survived throughout the project, but I was very hopeful, and we decided, and it was a very tough decision, that we should move everyone to a common floor.
Oh, okay.
And it was not taken very positively. Like people did not want to come out, but
Mm.
so the good thing is there was an open uh, floor available where nobody was sitting. So our client executive partner, he said, yeah, I will have that available for you because nobody using it. So we moved the team there, and then we had an open like a space, sitting space, and we had a big wall where we created like like the agile board. And that was the, again, very instrumental point, milestone. In few days, we started
Yeah.
seeing the progress, that
Yeah.
things that were not working for first 2 months now moving. So those are the things you need to remain very patient as a leader. You need to sometimes take very extraordinary steps like Steve Jobs took, right? When everyone was like so much tied with the key-based phones, he decided to go with different kind of experience that people never thought. And
Right.
now we're stuck with that for last 20 years and
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
loving it, right?
Yeah. I,
So sometimes you
I,
need to create different kind of experience and you need to take
mhm.
different kind of as a leader, sometimes you need to take those tough actions as well, along with what we were talking earlier, like learning from others, going along, collaboration and all that. But some days you need to have that collaborative decisions as well, like, hey, this is the shift in our action now. This is the shift in our journey.
Mhm.
Because that's another experiment. I think it all goes to that concept of experimentation, right? Let's try this, right? So
Yeah. It's a really nice example. And what I like is that the solution is, using a different word now, the solution is in architecture, getting people together, right? Changing the space in which people operate. Really nice. Yeah. Now, we talked about the past run. I'd like to shift the focus onto the present for a moment and talk about where you are right now.
yeah.
And this is not a question about organizations or titles or roles. It's still on your question about your leadership journey, where you are at the moment.
Yeah.
When you look at where you are today, what's an area where you think you can grow? What's an area where you say, there is more that I can do, more I can reach, more for me to level up?
Yeah, I think in the current um, work first, as mentioned that I'm a lifelong learner, and the reason I said that because I also have changed the industries, right? So
Hmm.
I have been working in the financial industries for last 20-25 years through consulting, through full-time jobs, but this is the first time public sector work for me. And there's an interesting story. The current mayor, he wanted somebody to lead the team, and I've been, the technology team, right? And he wanted someone like who brings the same value that he brings to the table. And me being in Aurora for last 20 years, it was a big sacrifice for him. But I took this decision that yes, okay, I'm gonna big step as well, right? Coming from the other side to this table, right? But I knew that I'm gonna learn from my
Okay.
journey. And so when I joined, I told my senior leadership team, hey, um, let's take this journey, but we're gonna remain transparent, ethical, and collaborative. So that means we will write together, and we set priorities. But but I realized later on that whether it's a public sector or private sector, I think um, the approach is critical, right? Because that's what drives the growth or execution
Yeah, sure.
and the mindset, right? So yeah, coming back to your question, I need to learn a lot about the public sector here, right? In order to kind of continue this growth, right? Continue this
Mm,
evolution. And I'm learning every day from these people, right? Some of these people are here for last 10 years, 20 years,
yeah.
right? 15 years, and they're well respected. And um, so, just talking to them and understanding the use cases where I can help them, create value for them through technology, through automation, through artificial intelligence. So I'm always like seeking for the use cases where I can empower their life while I'm learning from them, like how do
Yeah.
they operate day to day, whether
Yeah.
it's a police department, fire department, my own team. I'm collecting a lot of data. I'm focusing on data, centralizing the data because I feel personally that the AI can be only impactful if you know your use cases and if you know your data.
Yeah.
So, like for example, we are working currently on a local chatbot, like a local GPT. So there's a vast information within city infrastructure. You have a lot of data, but it's very difficult to go to that specific data, right? So
Yeah.
if you have a
Yeah.
chatbot, you just ask question, and the chatbot can be very meaningful if you centralize your data. Uh, So then you can point the chatbot to that, set of information, and then it can pull out and comprehend. There are
Right.
lot of APIs are available to comprehend the information, right? Um, so, so that yeah. So I think the learning is going on, right? And I think that is one area like that I'm sort of
Got it.
keep on like learning,
Yeah.
always like an area that you can all keep on,
It's limitless, right? That's the beauty about,
yeah, it's
yeah, it's
limitless. Yeah.
absolutely limitless.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. So many things different in the public sector. There's, yeah,
Yes.
in terms of, and the time scales are different, right? People have a
Yeah, like
much longer
procurement
tenure.
process is different,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
So there's a lot to learn. Yeah.
right.
And probably I
Anyway,
think being a technologist,
mm,
I'm thinking more about your question now, right?
hmm,
More and more like so as a technologist, you're not always good on selling your ideas, right? And I
hmm,
think as the technology is changing, now the CIOs and CTOs are having more space on the table, more stake, and more kind of like earlier they were sitting behind, but now they are coming in the front.
right.
Um,
Yeah,
so now the CIOs and CTOs have opportunity to kind of tell the story in a convincing manner, like why.
yeah.
We are always like,
And
I think the
and
technology
they
people are
have
always about solving the things, but they never sell things, right? They never like sell the idea in a convincing manner. So I think that's like one area I keep like thinking myself like how I can become better.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah, and you're right. The technologist's focus very often is on the solving. Let me ask you a last question, Ram, and then we'll wrap it up. When you look around how many tech leaders lead, when you just look at peers, colleagues, look at conferences, and just see how leadership plays out in the tech space typically, what's something that you would change? If you had a magic wand and you could change something about how many tech leaders lead their organizations, what do you think needs to get changed?
I think I would say remain grounded, know the
Okay.
technology, and as I started, that balance between 5,000 feet and the 100 feet or ground, right? I think that balance is very much needed. As you kind of grow into C-suite, you lose that touch with the ground,
Mm,
depending on the information coming from
yeah,
your senior leaders. But while you are closely working with the senior leadership, you also need to build that similar relationship with your developers, like what's going on the ground.
yeah.
And also, I feel a lot of projects fail um, because I think these executives are not paying attention to the details. They are waking up very late in the game. So for a
Hmm.
year-long project, they will always pay attention in the last 2 months. They're
Hmm.
not paying attention in the first 2 or 3 months,
Interesting.
which is, as I told about the Cargill, as I highlighted about the Cargill project execution example, where first 2 3 months were critical to set
Yeah.
that framework,
Yeah.
to set that road, right? To set that architecture, right? Obviously, when you are dealing with the ambiguity, it would be very, very volatile and very, very like problematic, right? Phase. But you as a leader need to be part of that phase, right?
Yeah.
For that storm. You can, if you are trying to avoid it, you're gonna have face problem later. And that's why a lot of projects fail, right?
Mm,
If you see the Gartner of Forrester study, l- majority of the project don't meet the timeline
mm,
because the leaders are not paying attention, right? So I
mm,
think that's one thing. The second thing is, I think they're not experimenting often. So they also need to experiment with technology. And now the technology is giving you like tools like Cursor and other tools where you can code yourself. So I would
mhm.
encourage them to experiment along with their team members, along with their senior leaderships, do more hackathon, participate yourself, not just, you don't need to just have an oversight, but be with your people. Like if you're a Starbucks CEO, go and see like how the Starbucks is like making coffee. Then
Yeah.
only you can make those policies or procedures or you know, like how these big organizations start. If you see Apple, I said Starbucks, Microsoft, these the founders were always coding with their developers, right? They were
Hmm.
always there with them. But as they hand over, um, once they become like huge, as they hand over the responsibilities to newcomers, probably they focus on the business only. They never focus
Hmm.
on the ground realities.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will definitely advise them to become founders. Like
Yeah.
the C-suite should act like founders, entrepreneur. Like they should act like an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
always focused on the ground realities.
Yeah. In the outcome. Ram, many good examples, many good suggestions there. This has been a wonderful conversation, Ram. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Love it. I loved your questions, very impromptu, and I did not know about those questions or anything. So I love that kind of discussions where we
Yeah.
are talking about the real life examples and exchanging ideas, so others can also get advantage of from my journey. And because I had so many um, setbacks, failures, as I experimented, I failed on many, I succeeded on many. So it's
Yeah.
always good to share with them in a non-prepared manner, right? Just like as they coming from
Absolutely.
your
Just
heart,
like a
right? So people
conversation,
can,
just like it goes through
yes,
our head at the moment.
yeah. So
Very
thank you
cool.
so much for giving me this opportunity. Love it. Yeah.
Awesome. To everyone else out there, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Join us again for our next episode. And most importantly, keep your brain cells active.